tropical forest is a quiet machine of sunlight and water. Energy arrives as photons, and leaves turn it into sugar, fibre, and shade. Water rises through trunks, then returns to the air as invisible vapour. Carbon moves in and out, breath by breath, leaf by leaf, hour by hour. And somewhere beneath all that green, soil and microbes keep the accounts balanced, one fallen leaf at a time. Welcome back to Science to Sleep 2. For those that don't know, I'm Madeline Rowe, an astrophysicist turned field investigator. However, tonight, we'll keep our feet grounded on Earth as we explore the dark depths of our jungles. If this case file helps you unwind, consider subscribing for more calm, science-first stories you can fall asleep to. And if you'd like to support the channel, a simple like lets YouTube know to share these episodes with more sleepers. This evening, back in my office, there is a constant hum. It feels alive, although when I glance around, nothing seems obvious. Next to me, paper lies in gentle stacks, like small islands of order. I slide a folder toward me and smooth the cover with my palm. The label reads, Tropical Forests, better known to many as jungles. And I speak softly, just to set the rhythm. This is Jungles for Sleep. This evening won't be an expedition briefing. It's a study of systems, of how sunlight turns into living structure, how water moves from soil to sky, and how a forest can feel endlessly alive while still obeying quiet, measurable rules. Before we step beneath the canopy, give yourself a moment to get settled. Let your shoulders drop, the way heavy leaves settle after a warm rain. Let your jaw loosen. Let your tongue rest softly so there's a little space between your teeth. If you are lying down, feel where the mattress supports you, from the back of your head all the way down to your heels. If you are sitting, feel the weight of your body passing through you into the chair, into the floor, into the ground beneath you, down into soil layers and older rock, down into the patient base that holds forests in place for centuries at a time. You don't have to hold yourself up alone. The earth has you. Nothing in this file needs to be remembered. You are allowed to miss entire sections. You can doze in and out as your attention wanders. If you fall asleep halfway through a sentence about canopy light or nutrient cycling, that just means the case file is working. I will keep reading quietly all the way to the end, whether you hear it or not. In this file, we won't chase myths or movie scenes. We'll follow the measurable things: heat, rain, light, leaves, dirt. We'll move from sky to canopy, from canopy to understory, and from understory to the forest floor. All without hurrying, as if the whole planet has decided to speak in a calmer voice. I open the folder. The first page is always the same kind of beginning. Location, conditions, the broad forces that make a forest possible. Tropical forests form where warmth is reliable, and where water arrives often enough to keep leaves on branches for most of the year. Many sit near the equator, where sunlight is strong, and seasons are more about rain than temperature. That rain is not random. It's organised by the atmosphere, by circulation patterns that lift humid air, cool it, and let it release water in broad, repeating belts. Air warms over the tropics and becomes buoyant. It rises, expands, and cools, and cooling air can no longer hold the same amount of water vapour. So water condenses, clouds build, and rain falls. Then, higher in the sky, air spreads outward and eventually sinks in drier subtropical regions, completing a large-scale loop. In the rising branch, rain is common. In the sinking branch, deserts are common. The jungle, then, is partly a story of where air tends to rise. But tropical forest is not one single place. It is a family of forests, shaped by rainfall seasonality, elevation, and soils. Some are ever-wet lowland rainforests, where each month can bring heavy storms. Some are seasonal forests, where a dry stretch asks trees to shed leaves, tighten stomata, or store water. Some are montane cloud forests, where cool air and persistent mist favour mosses and epiphytes. Some are flooded forests along rivers, where water rises and falls like a slow heartbeat. Some are peat swamp forests, where waterlogged ground slows decay and builds deep organic layers. Some sit at the coast as mangroves, where salt and tides define the rules. I trace these categories with a finger on the page, not as labels, but as gentle constraints. Moisture, elevation, soil, disturbance. And with each constraint, a different set of strategies becomes possible. That is the first calm principle of the file. A tropical forest is not only a collection of species, it is also a set of physical conditions repeated across space that filter which traits can survive. Now, we step closer than maps and climate bands. We approach the forest as structure, the architecture of living material arranged in layers. In the popular mind, jungle can mean tangled green. In ecology, the tangles have names and roles. Emergent trees that rise above the main canopy. A continuous canopy that catches most of the sun. A mid-story of smaller crowns and palms. An understory that lives on diluted light. And the forest floor, where decomposition is often faster than memory. We begin at the top, as if we've taken a slow elevator into warm air. Up here, wind is stronger, sun is direct, and leaves can heat quickly. Trees that reach this zone invest in height and support. Thick trunks, dense wood, strong branches. Their crowns are exposed, their buds are tested, and their leaves must manage both light and water loss. In humid air, the challenge is not always shortage of water, but control of exchange. Leaves take in carbon dioxide through tiny pores, stomata, and water escapes through those same openings. Life in this layer is a careful trade. Just below, the main canopy stretches like a green ceiling. It is not perfectly smooth. It is a mosaic of crowns, each a slightly different height and shape. The canopy intercepts most sunlight and much of the rain's momentum. Drops strike leaves, gather, and fall again as a softer second rainfall. A large storm can be broken into many small drips and streams before it ever touches soil. In that delayed descent, the forest moderates water and energy. The canopy is also an ecosystem in its own right. Branches hold epiphytes, plants that live on other plants without drawing nutrients directly from them. Orchids, ferns, and bromeliads use bark and branch forks as platforms. They collect dust, falling debris, and dissolved nutrients from rain. Over time, little pockets of canopy soil can form in the crooks of limbs. And in the warm, humid air, those pockets can support more roots, more microbes, more life. Alongside epiphytes, you'll find climbers, lianas and vines that use trees as scaffolding. They spend less on trunk thickness and more on length, leaves and reach. In some forests, they add much of the leaf area, and they can reshape competition for light. Their presence is not decoration. It's a functional choice in a world where height is expensive. Now the elevator drifts down again. Light softens. Air becomes still. We enter the understory, where the sun arrives in fragments. Much of the day is dim. And then, briefly, a sunfleck slides across leaves like a moving coin of brightness. Understory plants are often tuned for patience. Slower growth, lower photosynthetic capacity, leaves designed to capture sparse light efficiently. Some seedlings wait in this shade for years, living on small carbon budgets, waiting for opportunity. That opportunity can arrive as a gap. A branch falls, a tree topples, a storm opens a window in the canopy. Suddenly, light floods down, and the rules shift. Faster growing species surge, leaves are built for higher light, stems race upward, and the forest begins to heal the opening. This is one of the key rhythms of many tropical forests, not constant destruction, but continuous small disturbance, like breathing. It would be easy to claim that gaps explain everything, but the file is careful. Evidence suggests that gap dynamics contribute to diversity, yet may not be sufficient on their own to account for the full richness of species in many tropical forests. Other processes work alongside gaps: dispersal, soil variation, enemies, chance. The forest is not a single explanation. We continue our slow descent to the ground. The forest floor is darker, cooler, and full of quiet chemistry. Fallen leaves gather, but they rarely stay long in the warm, wet conditions of many lowland forests. Microbes, fungi, and small invertebrates dismantle them into simpler compounds. Nutrients are released and taken up again, sometimes so quickly that the soil itself can remain relatively poor while the living biomass remains rich. This is one of the most useful corrections in the whole case file. Lush vegetation does not always imply fertile soil. Many tropical soils are old, heavily weathered, and low in key nutrients such as phosphorus. In such places, productivity is sustained by tight cycling and efficient capture. Roots spread into the upper layers where fresh litter decomposes. Fungal partners extend the reach of those roots into tiny pores of soil, gathering nutrients and water. Leaves reabsorb nutrients before they fall, conserving scarce elements. The forest, in other words, runs on retention and reuse. I pause here, letting that idea settle. The jungle is not a wasteful abundance. It is a disciplined economy with many transactions happening too small to see. And now, as the file turns from structure to function, we can follow the most important constraint threading through every layer: light. In a tropical forest, light is uneven in space and time. Above the canopy, it is intense. Beneath the canopy, it is scarce. A seedling's fate can depend on whether it receives a few extra minutes of sunflex per day. So plants evolve strategies for shade, for sun, and for the transitions between them. There are pioneers, species that exploit high-light gaps with rapid growth and shorter-lived tissues. There are shade-tolerant species, species that endure low light with slower growth and longer-lived leaves. Between those extremes lies a continuum of compromises. When a gap opens, pioneers often respond quickly. Their seeds may be dispersed widely, their seedlings may grow fast, and their leaves may be designed for bright conditions. But speed has costs. Fast tissues can be more vulnerable to herbivores, pathogens, and drought. Shade-tolerant species, in contrast, may grow slowly but persist, waiting out long, dim periods until the right light arrives. The forest's vertical layering is mirrored by a layering of life histories. This is also where the forest becomes a story of probability. Not every seed lands in the right spot. Not every seedling survives a dry week, a fungal attack, or a hungry insect. Many seedlings die young, and the ground is quietly full of that constant thinning. Yet enough survive, and enough strategies persist, that the forest maintains its complexity. In ecology, that complexity is often called diversity. In a sleep story, it can feel like the forest is endlessly populated. The file offers a calm way to understand high diversity. It does not insist on one single mechanism. It places several mechanisms side by side, like photographs of the same scene under different light. One mechanism is niche difference. Soils vary, even over short distances. Moisture varies along slopes and hollows. Some species do better on ridges, some in valleys, some near streams, some on clay, some on sand. Another mechanism is dispersal limitation. Seeds have patterns, not perfect coverage. Even with animals carrying fruit, there are limits to how far and how evenly species spread. And a third mechanism is the influence of enemies, especially when individuals of the same species become crowded. Here we meet one of the most elegant ideas in tropical ecology. When many seedlings of one species grow near each other, they can attract specialized pathogens and herbivores. Those enemies can reduce survival near parent trees or in dense clusters. The result is a kind of spacing effect, where no single species can easily dominate everywhere. Diversity is supported not only by resources, but also by the costs of being common. Quietly, this helps explain why monocultures are so unstable in many tropical settings. In the folder, I note a small point in the margin. The forest is a balance of winners and restraints. Success invites pressure. Abundance attracts attention. And that attention from insects and microbes and fungi becomes a stabilizing force. Now we can let the narrative drift toward the living details without losing the science spine. We can move through the forest again, layer by layer, and listen for the functions hidden inside the forms. This time, we go more slowly. We linger on one feature at a time. At the very top, emergent crowns receive direct rain and strong light. Leaves here may be smaller or tougher, with protective structures to reduce overheating and damage. Branches host lichens and small epiphytes where moisture condenses overnight. In some places, lightning strikes are part of the disturbance regime, trimming canopies and creating gaps. Even without dramatic storms, branches fall and small openings appear, and the light map is always shifting. Just below, in the main canopy, leaves form a broad photosynthetic surface. This is where much of the forest's carbon uptake occurs, day after day. Water vapour streams out through stomata as transpiration, and that stream can influence local humidity and cloud formation. The canopy, then, is not only a roof, it is a valve, a regulator, a living interface between land and atmosphere. In the mid-story, palms and small trees occupy intermediate light. Their leaves can be broad, and their growth can be tuned to partial shade. Some species time their leaf flush and flowering to seasonal changes in rainfall or sunlight. Pollination can involve insects, birds, bats, or wind, depending on the species. Seed dispersal often involves animals, and that links plant communities to the movements of fruit eaters. In the understory, the physiology of shade becomes an art. Plants may hold onto leaves for long periods, making each leaf a careful investment. Growth can be slow, but survival can be high in stable low-light conditions. When sunflecks arrive, photosynthesis can spike for minutes, then return to baseline. Over weeks and months, those brief spikes can matter. The forest is full of slow arithmetic. On the forest floor, the story becomes chemistry and texture. Fallen leaves, twigs, and fruit begin their return to simpler forms. Fungi extend filaments through litter and soil, breaking down complex molecules. Bacteria process soluble compounds, and small arthropods fragment material into smaller pieces. Termites can play outsized roles in decomposition and nutrient redistribution in some forests. In wet, oxygen-poor soils, decay can slow, and carbon can accumulate as peat. The file includes a calm reminder about scale. In 1 square metre of forest floor, there can be countless microbial lives, each responding to moisture, temperature, and substrate. The global consequences of tropical forests are built from these tiny responses repeated billions of times. This is why the next pages in the folder turn towards cycles: nutrient cycles, water cycles, carbon cycles. Let's begin with nutrients, because nutrients are the quiet limiters. In many tropical regions, soils have been weathered for long periods. Rain can leach soluble nutrients downward and away. Phosphorus, often locked in minerals or bound to soil particles, can become scarce for plants. Yet the forest remains productive because the living system holds nutrients in biomass and recycles them quickly. Litter falls, decomposes, and roots capture released nutrients near the surface before they are lost. It is a loop with short travel distance. Some trees partner with microbes that can access forms of nutrients otherwise difficult to obtain. Mycorrhizal fungi, for example, can extend the effective surface area of roots and help acquire nutrients. Some plants, especially legumes, can associate with nitrogen-fixing bacteria that turn atmospheric nitrogen into usable forms. These partnerships are not sentimental. They are energetic exchanges: sugar for nutrients, carbon for nitrogen. A trade that becomes stable because both sides benefit. If you listen closely, the forest sounds like recycling. A leaf grows. A leaf falls. A fungus threads it. A root takes it back. The loop repeats. And because the loop repeats, the forest can remain lush even when the mineral soil beneath is not rich. Now the file turns to water, and water is the forest's great conversation with the sky. Trees draw water from soil through roots and lift it upward through xylem. That movement is driven largely by evaporation from leaves, by transpiration, which creates a pull. Water exits leaves as vapor, carrying latent heat into the atmosphere. Over large areas, this vapor contributes to humidity and can support cloud formation and rainfall recycling. In some regions, especially large basins with extensive forest cover, a significant portion of moisture can be retained and recycled regionally through repeated evaporation and precipitation. In the simplest terms, the forest helps keep air moist. Moist air is more likely to produce clouds when lifted. Clouds are more likely to produce rain. Rain returns water to soil, which returns water to roots. It is another loop, not closed, but reinforcing. This is one reason deforestation can change regional climate. When forest cover is reduced, evapotranspiration can decline. Surface properties change, including roughness and energy balance. Patterns of cloud formation can shift. The details differ by region, but the general principle is stable. Vegetation is not only a passenger under climate. Vegetation is also part of the machinery that shapes local and regional conditions. And now we arrive at carbon, the ledger that makes tropical forests globally important. Plants draw carbon dioxide from the air and convert it into organic carbon through photosynthesis. That carbon becomes wood, leaves, roots, and the many tissues that build structure. But carbon also returns to the atmosphere through respiration, decomposition, and disturbance. When uptake exceeds release, the forest is a net sink. When release exceeds uptake, the forest becomes a net source. Over time, warming, drought, and land use change can shift that balance. The file is careful not to treat the forest as static. It is dynamic. It is always in motion, always responding. When trees grow, carbon accumulates. When trees die and decay, carbon is released. When forests are cleared or burned, large pulses of carbon can enter the atmosphere. When forests regrow, carbon can return to biomass, but the rate and capacity depend on conditions, history, and continued disturbance. This is where changing Earth system becomes part of our calm case file. Rising temperatures can increase respiration. Altered rainfall patterns can increase drought stress. Drought stress can increase tree mortality and vulnerability to fire in places where fire becomes more frequent. Fire, once rare in many humid forests, can become more likely when landscapes are fragmented, dried, or exposed to ignition sources. These changes can create feedbacks where reduced forest cover further alters local climate and increases stress. Still, we keep our tone gentle. The purpose here is not alarm. It is understanding. Understanding can be quiet, like reading numbers in dim lamplight and letting them settle. To rest the mind, we return to the forest layers one more time, and we use them to organize the big exchanges. At the top, leaves meet sunlight and take in carbon. In the canopy, transpiration returns water to the air. In the understory, seedlings store their chances, waiting for light. On the forest floor, microbes release nutrients and carbon. The forest, in full, is a set of coupled loops. And because this is a sleep file, we can let those loops repeat softly, with slight variation each time. Repetition is not boredom. Repetition is comfort. So we begin a slow walk that circles back through the same ideas, each pass a little more detailed, each pass a little more quiet. We start again with the sky. Warm air rises in the tropics, carrying moisture upward. As it rises, it cools, and water condenses into clouds. Rain falls, not as a single event, but as a pattern that repeats across seasons and years. The pattern can shift north and south with the migrating zone of strongest convection, bringing wet and dry seasons to many regions. In some places, rain arrives so often that the dry season is brief or absent. Where rain is frequent, evergreen forests can dominate. Where rain is seasonal, many trees become deciduous for part of the year, shedding leaves to reduce water loss. Where cloud immersion is common at higher elevations, cloud forests develop, often with abundant epiphytes and mosses capturing moisture from mist. Where rivers flood, floodplain forests tolerate waterlogged soils and changing oxygen availability. Each forest type is a different solution to a different boundary condition. Now we step under the canopy edge. The air becomes cooler and more humid. The forest's microclimate is often more stable than the open air nearby. Temperature extremes are softened, wind is reduced, and humidity remains high. This stability matters for leaves, for microbes, for the chemistry of decomposition. Above, the canopy catches much of the incoming solar radiation. Leaves overlap and create shade, and shade is not empty. Shade is a habitat with its own specialists. Shade-tolerant seedlings have leaves built to capture low light efficiently. They may have slower growth, but their survival can be steady, and that steadiness is a form of success. In the canopy, sunlight drives photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide enters through stomata, and water vapour exits. Transpiration cools leaves and moves water upward. Over large areas, this water vapour contributes to atmospheric moisture and can support recurring rainfall. In a sense, the forest helps maintain the very conditions it prefers. But nothing is perfectly circular. The system has losses and gains. Nutrients can leach downward. Trees can die in storms. Seeds can land in the wrong place. This is why the forest contains so much redundancy and diversity. Many strategies, many species, many pathways to fill space and capture resources. Let's speak about diversity again, gently, as if we're sorting files into quiet cabinets. One cabinet is niches, another is dispersal, another is enemies, another is disturbance. And behind them all is time, giving chance enough repetitions to matter. Niche differences can be subtle. A slight change in soil texture can alter water retention. A slight change in chemistry can alter nutrient availability. A slope can drain faster than a hollow. A ridge can be drier and windier than a valley. Species respond to these gradients with different tolerances and preferences. That response creates patchiness, and patchiness supports coexistence. Dispersal limitation is another quiet support for diversity. Even in a forest full of seeds, the arrival of a particular species at a particular site is not guaranteed. Many seeds fall near parent trees. Others travel farther with wind or animals. The result is a landscape where species are clumped and where different patches can be dominated by different sets of arrivals. Over time, this can maintain variety across space. The influence of enemies is perhaps the most soothingly counterintuitive. When a species becomes very common in one spot, specialized pathogens and herbivores can find it more easily. Seedlings near parent trees can experience higher mortality, and that pushes recruitment outward. Commonness brings pressure. Rarity brings relief. In that rhythm, the forest avoids simple dominance. Disturbance, like gaps, adds another layer of opportunity. A gap changes light, temperature, and humidity. Species adapted to bright conditions can establish quickly. Species adapted to shade can persist around the edges. Over years, the gap closes. The light map shifts again, and the forest continues, always rearranging, never fully resetting. We can let the mind drift here, because the pattern is steady. Constraints create strategies. Strategies create coexistence. Coexistence creates structure. Structure shapes microclimate. Microclimate shapes decomposition and cycling supports growth. Now, we slow down even more, and we take a canopy elevator that stops at each floor. At each stop, we name one thing that matters, and then we let it go. Top floor, sunlight, heat, wind. Leaves manage temperature by transpiring water. They manage water loss by opening and closing stomata. They manage damage with protective tissues and repair. Canopy floor, photosynthesis, transpiration, interception. The canopy captures sunlight and turns it into biomass. It breaks rainfall into gentler drips and streams. It releases water vapour that can help maintain humid air. Canopy gardens, epiphytes, mosses, small soils in branch forks. Plants live on platforms, gathering nutrients from dust, rain, and decay. Microbes live with them, cycling those nutrients in place. Life stacks on life, quietly, without needing ground. mid-story floor, partial light, phenology, dispersal. Flowering and fruiting connect trees to animals and seasons. Seeds travel in patterns, creating clumps and gaps in species distributions. Movement of animals becomes movement of forests. Understory floor, shade. Sunflex, patience. Seedlings wait, keeping their energy costs low. They respond to brief light with brief bursts of growth. They persist until a gap opens overhead. Ground floor, litter, fungi, nutrients. Decomposition releases nutrients and carbon. Roots capture nutrients near the surface. The soil, though often weathered and nutrient poor in minerals, becomes active through rapid cycling. After this elevator ride, the mind usually asks a quiet question. If the cycling is so tight, why does disturbance matter so much? And the file answers by showing how forests are always balancing stability with change. Stable microclimate and constant temperature support ongoing decomposition and growth. Meanwhile, disturbances like tree falls, storms, and flooding create heterogeneity. That heterogeneity creates niches and prevents a single, simple equilibrium. A forest that never changes could eventually become uniform. A forest that changes too much could fail to retain nutrients and biomass. Tropical forests often sit in the middle, with frequent small changes and rare large resets. That pattern allows long-lived trees to persist, while also allowing opportunities for fast-growing species. It is, in a sense, a dynamic, steady state. Now we let the narrative drift toward soils again, because soils hold a surprising amount of the story. Many tropical landscapes contain mosaics of soil types: clay-rich soils with high water-holding capacity, sandy soils that drain quickly, white sand soils that are extremely nutrient-poor and support distinctive plant communities, floodplain soils refreshed by sediment. And in each case, the chemistry and physics of the soil influence which plants do best. Plants, in turn, influence soils. They add litter of different qualities. They alter microbial communities through root exudates. They change how water moves through the surface layers by creating root channels. They even influence erosion by binding soil with roots and buffering rainfall impact with leaves. The forest and the soil co-develop over long time spans. Let's take a soft detour into a single fallen leaf. A leaf is built from carbon-rich molecules like cellulose and lignin, and it contains nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus in smaller amounts. When it falls, microbes begin by taking the easiest compounds first. As decomposition progresses, tougher compounds remain, and different organisms specialize in breaking them down. Temperature and moisture influence how quickly this happens, and in warm, humid conditions, the process can be rapid. Nutrients released from that leaf can be taken up quickly by roots and fungi nearby. Multiply that leaf by billions. Multiply it by years. Multiply it by basins and continents. That is how tropical forests participate in global biogeochemical cycles. Now, a quieter loop begins. The rainfall clock. In seasonal forests, the year can be divided not by temperature, but by water availability. In wetter months, growth can accelerate, leaf flush can occur, and fruit may become abundant. In drier months, some trees shed leaves, others draw on stored water, and many plants reduce gas exchange to avoid dehydration. Even in ever-wet forests, short dry spells can matter for flowering and for the success of seedlings. The forest keeps time in moisture. Water availability is not only rainfall, it is also soil storage. Deep roots can access water held below the surface. Clay soils can retain water longer than sandy soils. topography can channel groundwater toward valley bottoms. These differences create a patchwork of drought stress even within the same regional climate, and that patchwork becomes another axis of niche differentiation. You can feel the file returning again and again to the same calm message. Variation supports coexistence, variation in light, variation in soil, variation in moisture, variation in disturbance. Tropical forests are varied in 3 dimensions, plus time. And now, because we have time, we can let our attention rest on one more forest type that is often overlooked in casual talk: the montane cloud forest. At higher elevations in the tropics, temperatures are cooler and clouds can sit low, bathing vegetation in mist. In these conditions, epiphytes can be especially abundant, and mosses can cloak branches like soft fabric. Water can arrive not only as rainfall, but also as cloud water intercepted by leaves and bark. Decomposition can be slower in cooler conditions, and soils can accumulate organic matter differently than in hot lowlands. And then there are flooded forests, where water shapes oxygen availability in soils. When soils are saturated, oxygen diffusion is limited, and roots can face hypoxic conditions. Plants adapted to flooding may develop specialized tissues to transport oxygen to roots, or they may time growth and reproduction to seasonal water cycles. Flood pulses can deliver new sediments and nutrients, creating productive zones along rivers. In contrast, peat swamp forests can trap carbon in waterlogged conditions, building deep organic layers over long times. Each of these forests is still a jungle in the broad sense, but the physics differ, and the biology responds. This is why a scientific case file is so soothing. It replaces a single vague word with a family of precise patterns. Now we return to the global lens, but we keep it gentle. Tropical forests are major reservoirs of biodiversity. They contain large stocks of carbon in living biomass and in soils, depending on forest type and history. They exchange water vapor with the atmosphere at large scales, influencing humidity and rainfall patterns. And they are sensitive to land use change and climate variability. These statements can be held quietly, like stones in a pocket, without turning them into worry. The file notes that deforestation and degradation can transform these forests from carbon sinks into carbon sources. Clearing and burning release carbon quickly. Fragmentation can alter microclimate at edges, increasing drying and changing species composition. Drought events can increase mortality in some areas and can interact with fire risk where ignition is present. Regrowth can store carbon again, but the trajectory depends on repeated disturbance and on whether soils and seed sources remain intact. There is also nuance in how forests respond to higher atmospheric carbon dioxide. Higher CO2 can increase photosynthetic rates in some conditions, a phenomenon sometimes called CO2 fertilization. But the response is constrained by water, nutrients, and temperature. In nutrient-limited tropical soils, additional carbon uptake may be limited unless nutrients can support additional growth. Again, the file is not a slogan, it is a balance. Now, to keep our rhythm, we return to the simplest ledger lines: carbon in, carbon out, water up, water down, nutrients released, nutrients captured. This is the forest written as arithmetic, and arithmetic can be calming when it is slow. We take one more long walk through the forest, and this time we move as if we are following a single molecule. A molecule of carbon dioxide drifts in warm, humid air. It enters a leaf through a stoma when the stoma opens. It is fixed into sugar through photosynthetic reactions powered by light. That sugar becomes a piece of wood in a branch, stored for years. Later, the branch falls, decomposes, and carbon returns to the atmosphere as CO2 again. The same carbon atom can cycle repeatedly, moving through many organisms across time. Now we follow a molecule of water. Rain falls through canopy leaves, dripping slowly toward the ground. The water enters the soil and is taken up by roots. It rises through xylem, pulled by evaporation at leaf surfaces. It exits as water vapor into the air. The vapor contributes to humidity, and when air rises and cools again, it can condense into cloud droplets. Another rain event returns it to the forest. Now we follow a nutrient atom, perhaps phosphorus, moving through a tight loop. It is released from decomposing litter by microbes. It is captured quickly by roots and fungal partners near the surface. It moves into leaves, then back into the soil as litter. In a weathered soil, this tight capture is essential because losses can be difficult to replace. The forest keeps phosphorus close. After these molecule walks, the mind tends to loosen its grip. The forest feels less like a scene and more like a set of processes, and processes are ideal companions for sleep because they do not demand suspense. They simply continue. We can now allow a gentle epilogue, one that the file places carefully with humility about uncertainty. Humans have interacted with tropical forests across deep time. The details are complex and differ by region, but the broad idea is that tropical environments were not always barriers. They were also habitats, sources of food, materials, and routes of movement. Evidence from archaeology, paleoecology, and genetics continues to refine how and when different human groups used tropical forests. There are still open questions. How often did early humans live primarily in dense forests versus forest edges and mosaics? How did technologies and social organisation shape forest use? How did climate variability shift forest extent and accessibility over thousands of years? In a calm case file, we do not force a single answer. We simply acknowledge that tropical forests have been part of the human story, and that the story continues to be clarified by evidence. Now we settle back into the main rhythm, and we let the forest become a background hum of repeating, soothing facts. Warm air rises, rain falls, leaves catch light, roots capture nutrients, water returns to the sky, carbon moves through wood and soil. The forest continues. The desk lamp is still low. The pages of the folder are quiet, and as we let the final section drift, we take one last slow elevator ride, not to learn anything new, but to smooth everything into rest. From canopy to understory, from understory to litter, from litter to soil, from soil back to roots, and from roots back to leaves. Sunlight becomes sugar, sugar becomes wood, wood becomes shade, shade becomes patience, patience becomes survival, survival becomes the next canopy, rain becomes drip, drip becomes soil water becomes xylem flow becomes vapor, vapor becomes cloud, cloud becomes rain again. A leaf falls, a fungus threads it, nutrients release, roots capture, leaves build. The loop closes enough to keep the forest lush, and in that repeating, the mind can drift, not into fantasy, into function, into slow systems that do not hurry you. The jungle is still a tangle of life, yes, but it is also a set of calm rules, repeating kindly. And those rules will keep running, even as you rest.